process while structural adjustment is a quick adaptation. Process B. Structural adjustment is a gradual multi-step process, while stabilization is a quick adaptation. Process C. Stabilization and structural adjustment are very similar and complementary policies. It is difficult to separate one from the other. D. Stabilization mainly deals with a set of policies which are to be implemented by the central government, while structural adjustment is to be set in motion by the state governments. Indian planning. Events leading to the Bob crisis of 1991. Even though the revenues were very low, the government had to overshoot its revenue to meet challenges like unemployment, poverty and population explosion. This spending did not generate additional revenue. Government was also not able to generate sufficiently from internal sources such as taxation. The income from PSUs was also not very high to meet the growing expenditure. At times, our foreign exchange, borrowed from other countries and international financial institutions, was spent on meeting consumption needs. Sufficient attention was not given to boost exports to pay for the growing imports. Prices of many essential goods rose sharply. Imports grew at a very high rate without matching growth of exports. Foreign exchange reserves declined to a level that was not adequate to finance imports for more than 2 weeks. There was also not sufficient foreign exchange to pay the interest to international lenders. Also, no country or international funder was willing to lend to India. India approached the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development (IBRD), popularly known as World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund (IMF), and received $7 billion as loan to manage the crisis. For availing the loan, these international agencies expected India to liberalize and open up the economy by removing restrictions on the private sector, reduce the role of the government in many areas, and remove trade restrictions between India and other countries. Then came the new economic policy of 1991, leading to LPG reforms, liberalization, privatization and globalization. Indian planning. After the Bob crisis of 1991, India agreed to the conditionalities of World Bank and IMF and announced the new economic policy (NEP). This set of policies can broadly be classified into 2 groups, the stabilization measures and the structural reform measures. Stabilization measures are short-term measures, intended to correct some of the weaknesses that have developed in the balance of payments and to bring inflation under control. Structural reform policies are long-term measures, aimed at improving the efficiency of the economy and increasing its international competitiveness by removing the rigidities in various segments of the Indian economy. The government initiated a variety of policies which fall under 3 heads, viz., liberalization, privatization and globalization. Question 1. Q. Which one of the following is correct regarding stabilization and structural adjustment as 2 components of the new economic policy adopted in India? 1996. Stabilization is a gradual, multi-step process while structural adjustment is a quick adaptation. Process B. Structural adjustment is a gradual multi-step process, while stabilization is a quick adaptation. Process C. Stabilization and structural adjustment are very similar and complementary policies. It is difficult to separate one from the other. D. Stabilization mainly deals with a set of policies which are to be implemented by the central government, while structural adjustment is to be set in motion by the state government's. Answer B. Question 2. Q. Economic liberalization in India started with 2000. Substantial changes in industrial licensing policy. B. The convertibility of Indian rupee. C. Doing away with procedural formalities for foreign direct investment. D. Significant reduction in tax rates. Indian planning. Liberalization. Deregulation of industrial sector. What was the case before? Industrial licensing, under which every entrepreneur had to get permission from government officials to start a firm, close a firm or decide the amount of goods that could be produced. Private sector was not allowed in many industries. Some goods could be produced only in small-scale industries. There were controls on price fixation and distribution of selected industrial products. Deregulation of industrial sector. What changed after 1991? Industrial licensing was abolished for almost all except a few product categories. Many goods produced by small-scale industries were dairy-served. In many industries, the market has been allowed to determine the prices. Indian planning. Liberalization. Financial sector reforms. What was the case before? RBI strictly controlled almost all the banking matters, norms for branch opening, expansion, amount of money to be kept by bank, amount of lending, etc. Financial sector reforms. What changed after 1991? Role of RBI was changed from regulator to facilitator of financial sector. Private banks were allowed to be set up. Foreign investment limit in banks was raised to around 50%. Foreign institutional investors (FII), such as merchant bankers, mutual funds and pension funds, were now allowed to invest in Indian financial markets. Indian planning. Liberalization. Tax reforms. What was the case before? The rate of corporation tax was very high. The rate of income tax was very high. The system was complex and compliance was low. Tax reforms. What changed after 1991? Since 1991, there has been a continuous reduction in the taxes on individual incomes, as it was felt that high rates of income tax were an important reason for tax evasion. In order to encourage better compliance on the part of taxpayers, many procedures were simplified and the rates also substantially lowered. Indian planning. Liberalization. Foreign exchange reforms. What changed after 1991? In 1991, as an immediate measure to resolve the balance of payments crisis, the rupee was devalued against foreign currencies. It also set the tone to free the determination of rupee value in the foreign exchange market from government control. Indian planning. Liberalization. Trade and investment policy reforms. What was the case before? India was following a regime of quantitative restrictions on imports. There was a tight control over imports and import tariffs were very high. Trade and investment policy reforms. What changed after 1991? The trade policy reforms aimed at dismantling of quantitative restrictions on imports and exports, reduction of tariff rates and removal of licensing procedures for imports. Import licensing was abolished except in case of hazardous and environmentally sensitive industries. Indian planning. Privatization. It implies shedding of the ownership or management of a government-owned enterprise. Government companies are converted into private companies in 2 ways. 1. By withdrawal of the government from ownership and management of public sector companies. 2. By outright sale of public sector companies. Privatization of the public sector enterprises by selling off part of the equity of PSEs to the public is known as disinvestment. The government envisaged that privatization could provide strong impetus to the inflow of FDI. It was also envisaged that private capital and managerial capabilities could be effectively utilized to improve the performance of the PSUs. The government has also made attempts to improve the efficiency of PSUs by giving them autonomy in taking managerial decisions. For instance, some PSUs have been granted special status as Maharatnas, Navratnas and Minratnas. Indian planning. Globalization. It is an outcome of the set of various policies that are aimed at transforming the world towards greater interdependence and integration. Globalization attempts to establish links in such a way that the happenings in India can be influenced by events happening miles away. Question 2. Q. Economic liberalization in India started with 2000. Substantial changes in industrial licensing policy. B. The convertibility of Indian rupee. C. Doing away with procedural formalities for foreign direct investment. D. Significant reduction in tax rates. Answer. A. Question 3. Q. Given below are two statements, one labeled as assertion A and the other labeled as reason R. 1996. Assertion A. An important policy instrument of economic liberalization is reduction in import duties on capital goods. Reason R. Reduction in import duties would help the local entrepreneurs to improve technology to face the global markets. In the context of the above two statements, which one of the following is correct? Both A and R are true and R is the correct explanation. B. Both A and R are true, R is not a correct explanation. C. A is true but R is false. D. A is false but R is true. Answer. A. Question 4. Q. Which of the following has have occurred in India after its liberalization of economic policy in 1991? 2017. 1. Share of agriculture in GDP increased enormously. 2. Share of India's exports in world trade increased. 3. FDI inflows increased. 4. India's foreign exchange reserves increased enormously. Select the correct answer using the codes given below. 1 and 4 only B. 2, 3 and 4 only C. 2 and 3 only D. 1, 2, 3 and 4 answer B. Question 5. Q. Since 1980, the share of the tertiary sector in the total GDP of India has, 1999. Shown an increasing trend. B. Shown a decreasing trend. C. Remained constant. D. Been fluctuating answer. A. Question 6. Q. One of the reasons for India's occupational structure remaining more or less the same over the years has been that, 1995. Investment pattern has been directed towards capital-intensive industries. B. Productivity in agriculture has been high enough to induce people to stay with agricultural. C. Ceiling on land holdings have enabled more people to own land and hence their preference to stay with agriculture. D. People are largely unaware of the significance of transition from agriculture to industry. 4. Economic development answer. A. UPSC Civil Services Examination. Prelims Special. Previous year questions. 1995-2018 Economy. Chapter listing. S. No chapter. 1. Introduction, Types of Economies, National Income and Accounting. 2. Growth and Development, Economic Growth, Economic Development. Happiness and Human Development. 3. Economic Planning, Types of Planning, Planning in the Indian Economy. Economic Reforms. 4. Inflation and Business Cycle. 5. Agriculture. 6. Industry. 7. Financial System in India. 8. Fiscal Policy. 9. External Sector in India. 10. International Economic Organizations. Q 127. Completed, L1. L2, L3 Q1 to 16. Completed, L4. L5 Q1 to 10 L6 What is inflation? Inflation is a quantitative measure of the rate at which the average price level of a basket of selected goods and services in an economy increases over a period of time. Inflation and purchasing power of money. When the general price level rises, inflation occurs. Each unit of currency buys fewer goods and services. Consequently, inflation reflects a reduction in the purchasing power per unit of money. Relation between money supply and prices. Increase in money supply. Increase in purchasing power. Increase in demand, supply equals constant increase in prices. Increase in money with banks. Decrease in interest rates, demand for credit constant, increase in investment, economic growth. Inflation on one hand, economic growth on the other. Relation between money supply and prices. Decrease in money supply. Decrease in purchasing power. Decrease in demand, supply equals constant, fall in prices. Decrease in money with banks. Increase in interest rates, demand for credit constant, decrease in investment, economic growth falls. Price fall, disinflation, deflation. On one hand, economic stagnation on the other. Question 1. Q. Supply of money remaining the same when there is an increase in demand for money, there will be, 2013. A fall in the level of prices. B. An increase in the rate of interest. C. A decrease in the rate of interest. D. An increase in the level of income and employment. Answer, B. Question 2. Q. Consider the following statements, 2013. 1. Inflation benefits the debtors. 2. Inflation benefits the bondholders. Which of the statements given above is correct? A. 1 only. B. 2 only. C. Both 1 and 2. D. Neither 1 nor 2. Answer, A. Question 3. Q. A rise in general level of prices may be caused by, 2013. 1. An increase in the money supply. 2. A decrease in the aggregate level of output. 3. An increase in the effective demand. Select the correct answer using the codes given below. A. 1 only. B. 1 and 2 only. C. 2 and 3 only. D. 1, 2 and 3. Answer, D. Question 4. Q. Which one of the following is likely to be the most inflationary in its effect? 2013. A. Repayment of public debt. B. Borrowing from the public to finance a budget deficit. C. Borrowing from banks to finance a budget deficit. D. Creating new money to finance a budget deficit. Answer, D. Question 5. Q. Economic growth is usually coupled with 2011. A. Deflation. B. Inflation. C. Stagflation. D. Hyperinflation. Answer, B. Inflation is a quantitative measure of the rate at which the average price level of a basket of selected goods and services in an economy increases over a period of time. How is this quantitative measure obtained? How is inflation measured? Based on the above, various indices are used. WPI, Wholesale Price Index. CPI Consumer Price Index has two variants, CPI, rural and CPI, urban, GDP deflated GDP at current prices divided by GDP at constant prices i.e. nominal GDP divided by real GDP. Goods services select base year decide which items goods and or services need to be tracked and for whom. Compare current rate of basket with that of base year. Inflation is said to have occurred if current value of basket, base year value of basket. Goods services select base year decide which items goods and or services need to be tracked and for whom. Compare current rate of basket with that of base year. For whom, students what goods and services are the students most likely to consume. I select 2010-11 as base year value of basket equals 100. Compare 2018-19 value of basket with 2010-11. Based on the above, various indices are used. WPI Wholesale Price Index. CPI Consumer Price Index has two variants, CPI, rural and CPI, urban, GDP deflated GDP at current prices divided by GDP at constant prices i.e. nominal GDP divided by real GDP. Wholesale Price Index WPI. Compiled by Office of Economic Advisor, Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Base year is 2011-12, earlier it was 2004-05, does not include services. Consumer Price Index WPI. Compiled by CSO under Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation MOSPI. Base year is 2011-12, same as WPI, includes services as well. GDP deflator. GDP at current prices divided by GDP at constant prices i.e. nominal GDP divided by real GDP. Wholesale Price Index WPI new series. The working group for WPI revision was chaired by Dr. Soumitra Chowdhury, member, Planning Commission. What changes have been made? Base year changed from 2004-05 to 2011-12-2012. Changes made in the basket of commodities increased from 676 to 697, 199 new items added, 146 old items removed. New weights assigned to the commodities. Prices used for compilation do not include indirect taxes in order to remove impact of fiscal policy. A new WPI Food Index will be compiled to capture the rate of inflation in food items. WPI Food Index. By combining the food articles under primary articles and food products under manufactured products. Together with the Consumer Food Price Index released by Central Statistics Office, this would help monitor the price situation of food items better. Consumer Price Index CPI new series. The new CPI has basket divided into 6 categories. Food and beverages, cereals, meat, fish, etc. Pan, tobacco and intoxicants. Clothing and footwear, ready-made garments, knitted garments, etc. Housing, house rent, etc. Fuel and light, electricity, liquid fuel, gas fuel, etc. Miscellaneous, health, transport, education, etc. The weightages differ for the rural and urban baskets. Question 6. Q. Which of the following brings out the Consumer Price Index number for industrial workers? 2015. At the Reserve Bank of India. B. The Department of Economic Affairs. C. The Labour Bureau. D. The Department of Personnel and Training. Answer C. In India, segment-specific CPIs, namely CPI IW, CPI AL, CPI RL, CPI UNME, were compiled catering to the need of specific population group. CPI IW Consumer Price Index for industrial workers, CPI AL, Consumer Price Index for agricultural laborers, CPI RL, Consumer Price Index for rural laborers. CPI UNME, Consumer Price Index for urban non-manual employees. Consumer Price Index CPI new series. Labour Bureau CSO. Question 7. Q. With reference to inflation in India, which of the following statements is correct? 2015. Controlling the inflation in India is the responsibility of the Government of India only. B. The Reserve Bank of India has no role in controlling the inflation. C. Decreased money circulation helps in controlling the inflation. D. Increased money circulation helps in controlling the inflation. Answer C. Relation between money supply and prices. Decrease in money supply. Decrease in purchasing power. Decrease in demand, supply equals constant, fall in prices. Decrease in money with banks. Increase in interest rates, demand for credit constant, decrease in investment, economic growth falls. Price fall, disinflation, deflation. On one hand, economic stagnation on the other. Question 8. Q. A rapid increase in the rate of inflation is sometimes attributed to the base effect. 2011. It is the impact of drastic deficiency in supply due to failure of crops. B. It is the impact of the surge in demand due to rapid economic growth. C. It is the impact of the price levels of previous year on the calculation of inflation rate. D. None of the statements A, B, and C given above is correct in this context. Answer C. Inflation is said to have occurred if current value of basket, base year value of basket. Question 9. Q. India has experienced persistent and high food inflation in the recent past. What could be the reasons? 2011. 1. Due to a gradual switchover to the cultivation of commercial crops, the area under the cultivation of food grains has steadily decreased in the last 5 years by about 30%. 2. As a consequence of increasing incomes, the consumption patterns of the people have undergone a significant change. 3. The food supply chain has structural constraints. Which of the statements given above are correct? 1 and 2 only B, 2 and 3 only C, 1 and 3 only D, 1, 2 and 3 answer B. Question 10. Q. Which one of the following statements is an appropriate description of deflation? 2010. It is a sudden fall in the value of a currency against other currencies. B. It is a persistent recession in both the financial and real sectors of economy. C. It is a persistent fall in the general price level of goods and services. D. It is a fall in the rate of inflation over a period of time. Answer C. Deflation and disinflation. In disinflation, prices do not fall, the rate of increase of prices comes down. Disinflation is considered a positive sign, and capital markets, especially the bond markets, tend to react positively to this trend. Deflation is when prices actually fall. Such a situation does seem favorable, but in reality it's not a position that any economy would like to be in. Deflation usually moves hand in hand with economic slowdown, lower productivity and loss of jobs. Just like how inflation decreases the value of money, deflation increases its value. This incentivizes people to save money to buy later when goods are cheaper, which, in turn, leads to further slowing of economic growth. Relation between money supply and prices. Decrease in money supply. Decrease in purchasing power. Decrease in demand, supply equals constant fall in prices. Decrease in money with banks. Increase in interest rates, demand for credit constant, decrease in investment, economic growth falls. Price fall, disinflation, deflation. On one hand, economic stagnation on the other. UPSC Civil Services Examination. Prelims Special. Previous year questions. 1995-2018 Economy. Chapter listing. No chapter. 1. Introduction, types of economies, national income and accounting. 2. Growth and development, economic growth, economic development. Happiness and human development. 3. Economic planning, types of planning, planning in the Indian economy. Economic reforms. 4. Inflation and business cycle. 5. Agriculture. 6. Industry. 7. Financial system in India. 8. Fiscal policy. 9. External sector in India. 10. International economic organizations. Q127. Completed, L1. L2, L3 Q1 to 16. Completed, L4. L5 Q1 to 10. L6 Q11 14 L7. Question 11. Q. With reference to India, consider the following statements, 2010. 1. The wholesale price index WPI in India is available on a monthly basis only. 2. As compared to consumer price index for industrial workers CPIW, the WPI gives less weight to food articles. Which of the statements given above is correct? 1 only. B. 2 only. C. Both 1 and 2. D. Neither 1 nor 2. Answer, B. If asked now. Q. With reference to India, consider the following statements, 2010. 1. The wholesale price index WPI in India is available on a monthly basis only. 2. As compared to consumer price index for industrial workers CPIW, the WPI gives less weight to food articles. Which of the statements given above is correct? 1 only. B. 2 only. C. Both 1 and 2. D. Neither 1 nor 2. Answer, C. Wholesale price index WPI new series. Base year changed from 2004-05 to 2011-12-2012. Changes made in the basket of commodities increased from 676 to 697, 199 new items added, 146 old items removed. New weights assigned to the commodities. Prices used for compilation do not include indirect taxes in order to remove impact of fiscal policy. A new WPI food index will be compiled to capture the rate of inflation in food items. It was earlier released on weekly basis for primary articles and fuel group. Currently, WPI is released monthly. Includes food articles and non-food articles and minerals. WPI food index. By combining the food articles under primary articles and food products under manufactured products. Together with the consumer food price index released by Central Statistics Office, this would help monitor the price situation of food items better. Weight of food articles in CPIW. Question 12. Q. In India, inflation is measured by the 1997 wholesale price index number. B. Consumers price index for urban non-manual workers. C. Consumers price index for agricultural workers. D. National income deflation. Answer, A. If asked now. Q. In India, the key measure of inflation is a consumer price index number. B. Consumers price index for urban non-manual workers. C. Consumers price index for agricultural workers. D. National income deflation. Answer, A. Question 12. Measure of inflation in India. WPI was the main index for measurement of inflation in India till April 2014 when RBI adopted new consumer price index CPI combined as the key measure of inflation. Headline and core inflation. The headline inflation measure demonstrates overall inflation in the economy. Core inflation measure removes the prices of highly volatile food and fuel components to distinguish the inflation signal from transitory noise. So we can have headline WPI and core WPI and similarly headline CPI and core CPI. Question 13. Q. In the context of Indian economy, consider the following pairs, 2010. Term most appropriate description. 1. Meltdown fall in stock prices. 2. Recession fall in growth rate. 3. Slowdown fall in GDP. Which of the pairs given above is correctly matched? 1 only. B. 2 and 3 only. C. 1 and 3 only. D. 1, 2 and 3 answer, A. Question 13. Important terms. Business cycle, economic cycle. In the US, economists define a recession as 2 consecutive quarters of decline in the GDP. Depression usually means an economic downturn that is longer lasting and more severe than the more frequently occurring recessions. A depression is said to begin when GDP declines more than 10% from the most recent economic peak. In general, periods of economic depression are accompanied with substantially reduced GDP, severely high rates of unemployment, foreclosures, business closures, as well as significantly reduced wholesale and retail sales activity. Slowdown is when the economy is still growing but the growth rate of economy falls. A stock market crash or meltdown is a sudden dramatic decline of stock prices across a significant cross-section of a stock market. Question 14. Q. Match list I with list 2 and select the correct answer using the codes given below the lists, 2000. List I list 2. A. Boom 1. Business activity at high level with increasing income, output and employment at macro level. B. Recession 2. Gradual fall of income, output and employment with business activity in a low gear. C. Depression 3. Unprecedented level of underemployment and unemployment, drastic fall in income output and employment. D. Recovery 4. Steady rise in the general level of prices, income, output and employment. Codes. A. A1, B2, C3, D4 B A1, B2, C4, D3 C A2, B1, C4, D3 D A2, B1, C3, D4 answer, A. Homework. What is trade cycle? What is producer price index? UPSC Civil Services Examination. Prelims Special. Previous year questions. 1995-2018 Economy. Chapter listing. No chapter. 1. Introduction, types of economies, national income and accounting. 2. Growth and development, economic growth, economic development. Happiness and human development. 3. Economic planning, types of planning, planning in the Indian economy. Economic reforms. 4. Inflation and business cycle. 5. Agriculture. 6. Industry. 7. Financial system in India. 8. Fiscal policy. 9. External sector in India. 10. International economic organizations. Completed, L1, L2, L3. Completed, L4, L5. Completed, L6, L7, L8, Q1 to 7. Inputs for the farmer. Land size, fertility, etc. Labor. Capital. Timely and adequate information. Accurate and timely. Seeds. Availability and quality. Insurance coverage, cost, etc. Fertilizer, pesticide, irrigation, end-to-end. Machinery, equipment. Demand. Inputs for the farmer. Depending on the availability, affordability of these inputs. Subsistence farming, commercial farming, local level consumption, production for market. Depending on the availability, affordability of these inputs. Subsistence farming, commercial farming, local level consumption, production for market. Produce goes. Market players. Commission. Agents, government, FPIs, wholesalers. Retailers. Consumers. Processing. Consumers. Buffer stock. Food. Security. Consumers. Minimum support price. Minimum support price (MSP) is a form of market intervention by the Government of India to ensure agricultural producers against any sharp fall in farm prices during bumper production years. 1. It is announced by the Government of India at the beginning of the sowing season. 2. This announcement is based on the basis of the recommendations of the CACP, Commission for Agricultural Costs and Prices, after these recommendations have been approved by CCEA, Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. 3. The major objectives are to support the farmers from distress sales and to procure food grains for public distribution. 4. Announcement of MSP by the government does impact the market prices to some extent, but influencing the market price of the crops is not the goal of MSP policy of the government. 5. Minimum support price. CACP takes into account various factors for calculating MSP. 6. These include cost of production, demand and supply, inter-crop price parity, views of the state governments, effect on cost of living, international price situation, etc. 7. Different prices. Procurement price, price at which the government agencies like FCI, Food Corporation of India, procures food. Grains for its food security operations. 1. Issue price, central issue price, the price at which the government makes the food grains available to the states. 3. Economic cost, after procurement, agencies like FCI have to make certain extra expenditures for storage, transportation, etc. These additional charges added upon the procurement price become the economic cost. 2. Fair and remunerative prices, FRP, it is the minimum price that sugar mills have to pay to sugarcane farmers. 4. Comparing the prices. A. Market price greater than MSP. B. Market price less than MSP. C. Market price equals MSP. 1. A. Procurement price greater than MSP. B. Procurement price equals MSP. 2. Economic cost greater than procurement price. 3. Economic cost, issue price equals food subsidy borne by the government. 4. Limitations of MSP. MSP is announced for a limited number of crops, not all. 1. Mere announcement of MSP does not mean assured procurement. 2. Calculation of MSP does not take into account the huge interstate as well as interregion variations in production costs at the level of the farmers. 3. Higher MSP can also lead to inflationary pressures. 4. MSP regime is also blamed for the skewed cropping pattern of the nation. 5. Recent developments. According to Swaminathan Report, National Commission on Farmers, MSP should be at least 50% more than the weighted average cost of production. 1. As per the budget 2018-19, MSP for unannounced kharif crops would be 1.5 times of the cost of production. 2. As you can see, MSP is announced for cereals, pulses as well as commercial crops like jute, sugarcane, etc. MSP is not announced for any fruit. Question 1. Q. Consider the following statements, 2009. 1. The Commission for Agricultural Costs and Prices recommends the minimum support prices for 32 crops. 2. The Union Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution has launched the National Food Security Mission. Which of the statements given above is correct? A. 1 only. B. 2 only. C. Both 1 and 2. D. Neither 1 nor 2. Answer, D. Question 1. National Food Security Mission (NFSM) is a centrally sponsored scheme launched in 2007 based on the recommendations of the Agriculture Subcommittee of National Development Council (NDC). 1. The initial aim was to increase the production of rice by 10 million tons, wheat by 8 million tons and pulses by 2 million tons by the end of the 11th Plan 2011-12. 2. The scheme was continued during the 12th five-year plan 2012-17 with a target of 25 million MT of increased food grain production, 10 million tons of rice, 8 million tons of wheat, 4 million tons of pulses and 3 million tons of coarse cereals. 3. Subsequently, coarse cereals and commercial crops were included under the purview of NFSM. National Mission for Oilseeds and Oil Palm was also merged under revamped NFSM from the year 2018-19. NFSM now has 6 components: rice, wheat, pulses, coarse cereals, commercial crops, oilseeds. 4. NFSM is now a part of the umbrella scheme, Green Revolution, Krishnonati Yojana. 5. Question 1. Key thrust areas of the scheme are as follows. Sustainable increase in the production of targeted crops through area expansion and productivity enhancement. Restoration of soil fertility and productivity at the individual farm level and rise in farm level net income. Question 1. GC is headed by the Union Minister of the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. SFSMEC is headed by the Chief Secretary of the State. DFSMEC is headed by the District Collector, CEO of Zilla Parishad. Question 2. Q. Consider the following, 2018. 1. Areca nut. 2. Barley. 3. Coffee. 4. Finger millet. 5. Groundnut. 6. Sesamum. 7. Turmeric. The Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs has announced the minimum support price for which of the above? At 1, 2, 3 and 7 only B, 2, 4, 5 and 6 only C, 1, 3, 4, 5 and 6 only D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Question 2. As you can see, MSP is announced for cereals, pulses as well as commercial crops like jute, sugarcane, etc. MSP is not announced for any fruit, neither is it announced for tea coffee. Question 3. Q. The prices at which the government purchases food grains for maintaining the public distribution system and for building up buffer stock is known as 2001. At minimum support prices B. Procurement prices C. Issue prices D. Ceiling prices. Answer, B. Question 3. Procurement price at which the government agencies like FCI, Food Corporation of India procures food grains for its food security operations. 1. Issue price, central issue price, the price at which the government makes the food grains available to the states. 3. Economic cost, after procurement, agencies like FCI have to make certain extra expenditures for storage, transportation, etc. These additional charges added upon the procurement price become the economic cost. 2. Fair and remunerative prices, FRP, it is the minimum price that sugar mills have to pay to sugarcane farmers. 4. Question 4. Q. Consider the following statements, 2010. 1. The Union government fixes the statutory minimum price of sugarcane for each sugar season. 2. Sugar and sugarcane are essential commodities under the Essential Commodities Act. Which of the statements given above is correct? At 1 only. B. 2 only. C. Both 1 and 2. D. Neither 1 nor 2. Answer, C. I shall fix the statutory minimum price, SMP, based on cost of cultivation estimated by CACP. My state has higher cost of production. SMP announced by central government is too low. I shall set SAP, state advised price. Farmers in my state are protesting. I am under pressure. I shall also set SAP greater than SMP. I agree with you too. I shall also set SAP higher than SMP, mills to farmers. SMP has been now replaced with FRP, fair and remunerative price, since 2009-10. Swaminathan Committee recommendation. Question 4. The statutory minimum price, SMP, used to be announced by the central government based on the cost of cultivation estimated by the Commission for Agricultural Costs and Prices, CACP 1. Unlike the MSP for wheat or paddy announced by the centre, where the government procures a commodity from farmers directly in case market prices go below the MSP, the government never procures sugarcane from farmers directly. 3. Citing differences in cost of production, productivity levels and also as a result of pressure from farmers groups. Some states also declare state-specific sugarcane prices called state-advised prices, SAP, usually higher than the SMP. 2. It is only sugar mills that buy it from farmers at the prices which shouldn't fall below the determined by the government SMP or SAP. 4. SMP been replaced with FRP, fair and remunerative price, since 2009-105. Question 4. The Essential Commodities Act is an act of Parliament of India which was established to ensure the delivery of certain commodities or products, the supply of which if obstructed owing to hoarding or black marketing would affect the normal life of the people. 1. The Act empowers the Centre to order states to impose stock limits. The Centre specifies upper limits in the case of stock holding and states prescribe specific limits. 3. The Centre can include new commodities as and when the need arises, and take them off the list once the situation improves. 2. However, in case there is a difference between states and the Centre, the Act specifies that the latter will prevail. In case a state doesn't want to accept the Centre's suggestion on implementing any provision of the Act, it can do so. 4. Question 5. Q. The correct sequence in decreasing order of the 4 sugarcane producing states in India is 2000. At Maharashtra, U. P. Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh B. UP, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh C. Maharashtra, UP, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu D. UP, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu. Answer, B. Question 5. Are greater than Maharashtra, greater than Tamil Nadu, greater than Karnataka, greater than Andhra Pradesh, greater than Bihar, greater than Gujarat, greater than Haryana, greater than Punjab, greater than Uttarakhand? Question 6. Q. Consider the following statements, 2004. 1. Regarding the procurement of food grains, Government of India follows a procurement target rather than an open-ended procurement policy. 2. Government of India announces minimum support prices only for cereals. 3. For distribution under Targeted Public Distribution System (TPDS), wheat and rice are issued by the Government of India at uniform central issue prices to the states, union territories. Which of the statements given above is correct? At 1 and 2 only. B. 2 only. C. 1 and 3. D. 3 only. Answer, C. Question 6. Procurement price at which the government agencies like FCI, Food Corporation of India procures food grains for its food security operations. 1. Issue price, central issue price, the price at which the government makes the food grains available to the states. 3. Economic cost, after procurement, agencies like FCI have to make certain extra expenditures for storage, transportation, etc. These additional charges added upon the procurement price become the economic cost. 2. Fair and remunerative prices, FRP, it is the minimum price that sugar mills have to pay to sugarcane farmers. 4. Question 7. Q. With reference to the provisions made under the National Food Security Act, 2013 considers the following statements, 2018. 1. The families coming under the category of below poverty line BPL only are eligible to receive subsidized grains. 2. The eldest woman in a household, of age 18 years or above, shall be the head of the household for the purpose of issuance of a ration card. 3. Pregnant women and lactating mothers are entitled to a take-home ration of 1600 calories per day during pregnancy and for 6 months thereafter. Which of the statements given above is correct? At 1 and 2 only. B. 2 only. C. 1 and 3 only. D. 3 only. A. Question 7. About NFSA. Came into force in July 2013. Nutritious meal, free of charge to pregnant women and lactating mothers and children up to 6 years of age under ICDS. Nutritious meal, free of charge to children in the 6 to 14 years of age group under MDM. Maternity benefits of Rs. 6,000 to pregnant women and lactating mothers. PDS now governed by provisions of NFSA. Coverage under PDS, 75% rural and 50% urban population. Statewide coverage determined by the Planning Commission, now 90 on the basis of 2011-12 Household Consumption Expenditure Survey of NSSO. Coverage of 2/3 of the total population at the all-India level, under 2 categories of beneficiaries, Antodaya Anna Yojana AAY households and priority households PHH. Food grains entitlement, 5 kg per person for PHH category and 35 kg per household for AAY households. Prices, Rs. 3.2/1 per kilogram for rice, wheat and coarse grains. 1. A. Question 7. Identification of households, to be done by states, which are required to frame their own criteria. Women empowerment, eldest woman 18 years or above, to be the head of the household for the purpose of issuing of ration cards. Grievance redressal mechanism, to be set up at the district and state levels. Transparency, provisions for disclosure of records relating to PDS, placing beneficiaries list in public domain. 3. UPSC Civil Services Examination. Prelims Special. Previous year questions. 1995-2018 Economy. Chapter listing. S. No chapter. 1. Introduction, types of economies, national income and accounting. 2. Growth and development, economic growth, economic development. Happiness and human development. 3. Economic planning, types of planning, planning in the Indian economy. Economic reforms. 4. Inflation and business cycle. 5. Agriculture. 6. Industry. 7. Financial system in India. 8. Fiscal policy. 9. External sector in India. 10. International economic organizations. Completed, L1, L2, L3. Completed, L4, L5. Completed, L6, L7. L8, Q1, 7, L9, Q8 to 14. Question 1. Q. With reference to Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, consider the following statements, 2016. 1. Under this scheme, farmers will have to pay a uniform premium of 2% for any crop they cultivate in any season of the year. 2. This scheme covers post-harvest losses arising out of cyclones and unseasonal rains. Which of the statements given above is correct? 1 only. B. 2 only. C. Both 1 and 2. D. Neither 1 nor 2. Answer, B. Inputs for the farmer. Land size, fertility, etc. Labor. Capital timely. And adequate information accurate and timely. Seeds. Availability and quality, insurance coverage, cost, etc. Fertilizer, pesticide, irrigation, end-to-end. Machinery, equipment, demand. Inputs for the farmer. Depending on the availability, affordability of these inputs. Subsistence farming, commercial farming, local level consumption, production for market. Question 1. PMFBY was launched by GOI in 2016 after rolling back the earlier insurance schemes National Agriculture Insurance Scheme NAIS, Weather-Based Crop Insurance Scheme WBCIS, and Modified National Agricultural Insurance Scheme MNAIS. 1. PMFBY will provide a comprehensive insurance cover against failure of the crop, thus helping in stabilizing the income of the farmers and encourage them for adoption of innovative practices. 2. The scheme is compulsory for loanee farmer obtaining crop loan KCC account for notified crops. 3. It is voluntary for other non-loanee farmers who have insurable interest in the insured crops. 4. Coverage of crops. Food crops, cereals, millets and pulses. Oilseeds, annual commercial, annual horticultural crops. 5. Question 1. The maximum premium payable by the farmers will be 2% for all kharif food and oilseeds crops, 1.5% for rabi food and oilseeds crops, and 5% for annual commercial horticultural crops. 6. The difference between premium and the rate of insurance charges payable by farmers shall be shared equally by the center and state. 7. Both private and public sector insurance companies provide crop insurance. 8. Coverage. Yield losses includes natural fire and lightning, storm, hailstorm, cyclone, typhoon, tempest, hurricane, tornado, etc. Flood, inundation and landslide, drought, dry spells, pest diseases, etc. Post-harvest losses against specific perils of hailstorm, cyclone, cyclonic rains, unseasonal rains throughout the country. Localized calamities includes loss damage resulting from occurrence of identified localized risks, i.e. hailstorm, landslide, inundation, cloudburst and natural fire due to lightning affecting isolated farms in the notified area. 9. Question 1. Add-on coverage for crop loss due to attack by wild animals. The states may consider providing add-on coverage for crop loss due to attack by wild animals wherever the risk is perceived to be substantial and is identifiable. 9. General exclusions, losses arising out of war and nuclear risks, malicious damage and other preventable risks shall be excluded. 10. Question 2. Q. With reference to Initiative for Nutritional Security through Intensive Millets Promotion, which of the following statements is correct? 2016. 1. This initiative aims to demonstrate the improved production and post-harvest technologies, and to demonstrate value addition techniques, in an integrated manner, with cluster approach. 2. Poor, small, marginal and tribal farmers have larger stake in this scheme. 3. An important objective of the scheme is to encourage farmers of commercial crops to shift to millet cultivation by offering them free kits of critical inputs of nutrients and micro-irrigation equipment. Select the correct answer using the code given below. 1 only. B. 2 and 3 only. C. 1 and 2 only. D. 1, 2 and 3 answer, C. Question 2. Millets are largely grown under rain-fed conditions and can thrive with rainfall of 300 mm, wherein major cereals like wheat and rice cannot be grown. 1. Millets supplement the nutritional security of both human as well as livestock in rain-fed areas. 2. Millets are the hardy crops against the disease, pests, and also grown as trap crops in oilseed and pulses for control of disease and pest management. Therefore, they require lesser support for chemicals, fertilizers and pesticides. 3. Trap crop. A crop planted to attract insect pests from another crop, especially one in which the pests fail to survive or reproduce. Asterisk. Hardy crop. Crops that can survive a freeze, frost, or a cold snap. Question 2. Government schemes, projects, programs with respect to millets production, promotion, include Initiative for Nutritional Security through Intensive Millets Promotion INSIMP, a part of Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana RKVY, which is the only comprehensive initiative to support millet production. Rainfed Area Development Program (RADP), a component of the Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana (RKVY). Integrated Cereals Development Programs in Coarse Cereals-Based Cropping Systems Areas (ICDPCC) under Macro Management of Agriculture (MMA). 4. INSIMP. Aims to demonstrate the improved production and post-harvest technologies in an integrated manner with visible impact to catalyze increased production of millets in the country. Besides increasing production of millets, the scheme through processing and value addition techniques is expected to generate consumer demand for millet-based food products. 5. Question 3. Q. With reference to micro-irrigation, which of the following statements is correct? 2011. 1. Fertilizer nutrient loss can be reduced. 2. It is the only means of irrigation in dry land farming. 3. In some areas of farming, receiving a groundwater table can be checked. Select the correct answer using the code given below. 1 only. B. 2 and 3 only. C. 1 and 3 only. D. 1, 2 and 3 answer C. Question 4. Q. Which of the following is the advantages of practicing drip irrigation? 2016. 1. Reduction in weed. 2. Reduction in soil salinity. 3. Reduction in soil erosion. Select the correct answer using the code given below. 1 and 2 only. B. 3 only. C. 1 and 3 only. D. None of the above is an advantage of practicing drip irrigation. Answer C. Question 4. Irrigation-led salinization is a problem all over the world, endangering the sustainability of many agricultural activities. 1. Salinization occurs due to the fact that all irrigation water contains salts. Crops take up nearly pure water for transpiration, nutrients and some specific salts are taken up by the roots, and therefore salts will remain behind and concentrate in the root zone. 2. The evaporation of water from the soil surface is another cause of salinization, as pure water is evaporated, salts are left behind. 3. Question 5. Q. Assertion A. India does not export natural rubber. Reason R. About 97% of India's demand for natural rubber is met from domestic production. 2004. Which of the statements given above is correct? Both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. B. Both A and R are true, but R is not a correct explanation of A. C. A is true, but R is false. D. A is false, but R is true. Answer B. If asked now. Q. Assertion A. India does not export natural rubber. Reason R. About 97% of India's demand for natural rubber is met from domestic production. 2004. Which of the statements given above is correct? Both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. B. Both A and R are true, but R is not a correct explanation of A. C. A is true, but R is false. D. Both A and R are false. Answer D. Question 5. 2018 domestic natural rubber production can meet only 42% of the domestic demand. 1. 2018 India's rubber manufacturing industry is becoming over-reliant on imports of low-cost natural rubber, the Rubber Research Institute of India has warned. 2. 2017 natural rubber near exports from India registered a big jump in 2017 as compared to 2016. After touching 30,594 tons in 2012-13, the exports had progressively dropped every year owing to relative low price of near in the international market. 3. Question 6. Q. Consider the following statement. India continues to be dependent on imports to meet the requirement of oilseeds in the country because, 2004. 1. Farmers prefer to grow food grains with highly remunerative support prices. 2. Most of the cultivation of oilseed crops continues to be dependent on rainfall. 3. Oils from the seeds of free origin and rice bran have remained unexploited. 4. It's far cheaper to import oilseeds than to cultivate the oilseed crops. Which of the statements given above is correct? 1 and 2 only. B. 1, 2 and 3 only. C. 2 and 3. D. 1, 2, 3 and 4 answer B. Question 6. India occupies a prominent position in the world oilseeds industry with contribution of around 10% in worldwide production. 1. But the demand of edible oils is significantly higher than the domestic production, leading to dependence on imports 60% of requirement. 2. The government is currently running National Mission on Oilseeds and Oil Palm (NMOOP) under NFSM to encourage the adoption of newly released varieties and improved agro techniques in oilseed crops. NMOOP targets increasing production of oilseeds to 42 million tons by 2022. 3. Question 7. Q. Consider the following statements. 2018. 1. The quantity of imported edible oils is more than the domestic production of edible oils in the last 5 years. 2. The government does not impose any customs duty on all the imported edible oils as a special case. Which of the statements given above is correct? 1 only. B. 2 only. C. Both 1 and 2. D. Neither 1 or 2 answer. UPSC Civil Services Examination. Prelims Special. Previous year questions. 1995-2018 Economy. Chapter listing. S. No chapter. 1. Introduction, Types of Economies, National Income and Accounting. 2. Growth and Development, Economic Growth, Economic Development. Happiness and Human Development. 3. Economic Planning, Types of Planning, Planning in the Indian Economy. Economic Reforms. 4. Inflation and Business Cycle. 5. Agriculture. 6. Industry. 7. Financial System in India. 8. Fiscal Policy. 9. External Sector in India. 10. International Economic Organizations. Completed, L1, L2, L3. Completed, L4, L5. Completed, L6, L7. L8 Q17. L9 Q8 to 14. L10 Q15 19. Inputs for the farmer. Land size, fertility, etc. Labor. Capital. Timely and adequate information. Accurate and timely. Seeds. Availability and quality. Insurance coverage, cost, etc. Fertilizer, pesticide, irrigation, end-to-end. Machinery, equipment. Demand. Question 1. Q. In the context of food and nutritional security of India, enhancing the seed replacement rates of various crops helps in achieving the food production targets of the future. But what is RFA constraint S in its wider greater implementation? 2014. 1. There is no national seeds policy in place. 2. There is no participation of private sector seed companies in the supply of quality seeds of vegetables and planting materials of horticultural crops. 3. There is a demand-supply gap regarding quality seeds in case of low-value and high-volume crops. Select the correct answer using the code given below. At 1 and 2 only, B, 3 only. C, 2 and 3 only, D, none. Answer, B. Question 1. Seed replacement rate is the percentage of area sown out of total area of crop planted in the season by using certified quality seeds other than the farm-saved seed. 1. It denotes how much of the total cropped area was sown with certified seeds in comparison to farm-saved seeds. 2. At public sector level, the National Seed Corporation, State Farms Corporation and State Seed Corporations are producing quality seeds and distributing to the farming community. 3. The National Seeds Policy 2002 clearly emphasizes that it has become evident that in order to achieve the food production targets of the future, a major effort will be required to enhance the seed replacement rates of various crops. This would require a major increase in the production of quality seeds. 4. Question 1. The public sector was limited to produce quality seeds of only low-value food grain crops, while private sector has focused on high-value crops. 5. Question 2. Q. Indian farmers are unhappy over the introduction of terminator seed technology because the seeds produced by this technology are expected to, 1999. Show poor germination. B. From low-yielding plants despite the high-quality C, give rise to sexually sterile plants. D. Give rise to plants incapable of forming viable seeds. Answer, C. Question 2. Terminator technology is the genetic modification of plants to make them produce sterile seeds. They are also known as suicide seeds. 1. Genetic use restriction technology GURT is the technical official term used for terminator seeds. 2. Terminator refers to plants that are genetically modified to kill their own seeds. Seeds harvested from terminator crops will not germinate if replanted the following season. 3. Farmers using terminator seeds would no longer be able to save seeds to reuse from one harvest to the next. So seed replacement rate would be 100%. Many poor farmers cannot afford to buy seeds each year, hence it is opposed by farmers at large. 4. Question 3. Q. Why does the government of India promote the use of neem-coated urea in agriculture? 2016. A release of neem oil in the soil increases nitrogen fixation by the soil microorganisms. B. Neem coating slows down the rate of dissolution of urea in the soil. C. Nitrous oxide, which is a greenhouse gas, is not at all released into atmosphere by crop fields. D. It is a combination of a weedicide and a fertilizer for particular. Answer, B. Question 3. Urea SOILAMMONIUM ion. Nitrite nitrate. Most crops use nitrate as a source of nitrogen. NITRIFICATION. Urea SOILAMMONIUM ion. Nitrite nitrate. Most crops use nitrate as a source of nitrogen. NITRIFICATION. If nitrification is too rapid, nitrogen will escape to atmosphere and plants will not be able to recover it from urea efficiently. Nitrogen use efficiency NUE is the fraction of applied nitrogen that is absorbed and used by the plant. Urea SOILAMMONIUM ion. Nitrite nitrate. Most crops use nitrate as a source of nitrogen. NITRIFICATION. It has been scientifically established that neem oil serves as an effective inhibitor, i.e. slows down nitrification, if coated on urea. It also serves as a natural insecticide. Neem coating also checks diversion of highly subsidized urea towards non-agricultural purposes. Question 4. Q. As per the NSSO 70th round, Situation Assessment Survey of Agricultural Households, Comside Earth following statements, 2018. 1. Rajasthan has the highest percentage share of agricultural households among its rural households. 2. Out of the total agricultural households in the country, a little over 60% belong to OBCs. 3. In Kerala, a little over 60% of agricultural households reported to have received maximum income from sources other than agricultural activities. Which of the statements given above is correct? At 2 and 3 only, B, 2 only. C, 1 and 3 only, D, 1, 2 and 3 answer, C. Question 4. 2014 report. Question asked in 2018. Better to leave such questions in exam than trying tomorrow. Fee Wild Tucker. Question 5. Q. The FAO accords the status of Globally Important Agricultural Heritage System GIAHS to traditional agricultural systems. What is the overall goal of this initiative? 2016. 1. To provide modern technology, training in modern farming methods and financial support to local communities of identified GIAHS so as to greatly enhance their agricultural productivity. 2. To identify and safeguard eco-friendly traditional farm practices and their associated landscapers, agricultural biodiversity and knowledge systems of the local communities. 3. To provide geographical indication status to all the varieties of agricultural produce in such identified GIAHS. Select the correct answer using the code given below. At 1 and 3 only, B, 2 only. C, 2 and 3 only, D, 1, 2 and 3 answer, B. Question 5. 1. GIAHS are defined as remarkable land use systems and landscapes which are rich in globally significant biological diversity evolving from the co-adaptation of a community with its environment and its needs and aspirations for sustainable development. 2. GIAHS aims to set the basis for global and national recognition, dynamic conservation and sustainable management of agricultural heritage systems and their associated biodiversity, knowledge systems and cultures. 3. GIAHS stands for Globally Important Agricultural Heritage Systems. UPSC Civil Services Examination. Prelims Special. Previous year questions. 1995-2018 Economy. Chapter listing. S. No chapter. 1. Introduction, Types of Economies, National Income and Accounting. 2. Growth and Development, Economic Growth, Economic Development. Happiness and Human Development. 3. Economic Planning, Types of Planning, Planning in the Indian Economy. Economic Reforms. 4. Inflation and Business Cycle. 5. Agriculture. 6. Industry. 7. Financial System in India. 8. Fiscal Policy. 9. External Sector in India. 10. International Economic Organizations. Completed, L1, L2, L3. Completed, L4, L5. Completed, L6, L7. Completed, L8, L9. L10 L11 Q1 to 5. Relation between money supply and prices. Increase in money supply. Increase in purchasing power. Increase in demand, supply equals constant increase in prices. Increase in money with banks. Decrease in interest rates, demand for credit constant, increase in investment, economic growth. Inflation on one hand, economic growth on the other. Relation between money supply and prices. Decrease in money supply. Decrease in purchasing power. Decrease in demand, supply equals constant, fall in prices. Decrease in money with banks. Increase in interest rates, demand for credit constant, decrease in investment, economic growth falls. Price fall, disinflation, deflation. On one hand, economic stagnation on the other. Relation between money supply and prices. Decrease in money supply. Decrease in purchasing power. Decrease in demand, supply equals constant, fall in prices. Decrease in money with banks. Increase in interest rates, demand for credit constant, decrease in investment, economic growth falls. Who is influencing this money supply? RBI via monetary policy, government via fiscal policy. Fiscal policy plus monetary policy. Fiscal policy, monetary policy. Influence the money supply in the economy. Give direction to the country's socio-economic goals. Controlling the income and expenses of a country, controlling the interest rates in the economy. From where does the RBI get the power to conduct the monetary policy? This responsibility is explicitly mandated under the Reserve Bank of India Act, 1934. Monetary policy, aims and objectives aka goals. 1. Maintain price stability keeping in mind the objective of growth. 2. Ensuring adequate employment opportunities. 3. Stability of financial markets. 4. Stability in the foreign exchange markets. Primary goal of the monetary policy of RBI. Target inflation by controlling interest rates. Use of monetary policy instruments tools. Flexible inflation targeting. In May 2016, the Reserve Bank of India RBI Act, 1934 was amended to provide a statutory basis for the implementation of the flexible inflation targeting framework. The amended RBI Act also provides for the inflation target to be set by the Government of India in consultation with the Reserve Bank, once in every 5 years. Present rates. 4% Cumbine, August 5, 2016 to March 31, 2021. Upper tolerance limit of 6% and the lower tolerance limit of 2%. Flexible inflation targeting. What are the factors that constitute failure to achieve the inflation target? The average inflation is more than the upper tolerance level of the inflation target for any 3 consecutive quarters. OR. The average inflation is less than the lower tolerance level for any 3 consecutive quarters. Monetary Policy Committee MPC. Before the amendment to the RBI Act, 1934, the policy rate was decided by the RBI Governor. After the amendment to the RBI Act, 1934, Monetary Policy Committee MPC created and empowered to decide the policy rate. Monetary Policy Committee MPC. Section 45 zettabytes of the amended RBI Act, 1934. 6-member Monetary Policy Committee MPC. Constituted by the central government by notification in the Official Gazette. The central government in September 2016 constituted the MPC as under 3 members from RBI plus 3 members from government. Governor of RBI, chairperson, ex officio. Deputy Governor of RBI, in charge of monetary policy, member, ex officio. 1 officer of RBI to be nominated by the Central Board, member, ex officio. 3 members, appointed by the Centre on the recommendations of a search-cum-selection committee which is to be headed by the Cabinet Secretary. They will hold office for a period of 4 years or until further orders, whichever is earlier. Monetary Policy Committee MPC. Other important points. Every 2 months, the RBI comes out with a monetary policy statement. The MPC is required to meet at least 4 times in a year. The quorum for the meeting of the MPC is 4 members. Voting, each member of the MPC has 1 vote, and in the event of an equality of votes, the Governor has a second or casting vote. The resolution adopted by the MPC is published after the conclusion of every meeting of the MPC. Monetary Policy Report. Once in every 6 months, the Reserve Bank is required to publish a document called the Monetary Policy Report to explain the sources of inflation and the forecast of inflation for 6 to 18 months ahead. Monetary Policy Instruments. Quantitative and Qualitative Tools. Question 1. Q. With reference to Indian economy, consider the following, 2015. 1. Bank rate. 2. Open market operations. 3. Public debt. 4. Public revenue. Which of the above is a components of monetary policy? 1 only. B. 2, 3 and 4 C, 1 and 2 D, 1, 3 and 4 answer, C. Some important concepts. Various types of bank deposits. Demand deposits, time deposits. Current account, savings account, fixed deposit, recurring deposit. How a bank earns. Deposits, loans. Difference in the interest rates. Bank spread, it is the difference between the interest rate that a bank charges a borrower and the interest rate a bank pays a depositor. Quantitative tools. Cash reserve ratio, CRR. It is the share of a bank's total deposit that is mandated by the Reserve Bank of India, RBI, to be maintained with the RBI in the form liquid cash. Objectives. Cash reserve ratio, CRR, ensures that a part of the bank's deposit is with the central bank and is hence safe. To influence prices and liquidity, to keep the liquidity in check, the RBI resorts to increasing and decreasing the cash reserve ratio. Cash reserve ratio, CRR. The cash balance that is to be maintained by scheduled banks for the RBI should not be less than 4% of the total NDTL, net demand and time liabilities. Important points. From 2006 onwards, the RBI is empowered to fix the CRR on its discretion without any ceiling. Do banks earn interest rate on CRR? From March 31, 2007 onwards, RBI does not pay any interest on the CRR balances. How much should be maintained? CRR is subject to change, so stay updated with the current values. Relation between money supply and prices. Increase in money supply. Increase in purchasing power. Increase in demand, supply equals constant increase in prices. Increase in money with banks. Decrease in interest rates, demand for credit constant, increase in investment, economic growth. Inflation on one hand, economic growth on the other. Relation between money supply and prices. Decrease in money supply. Decrease in purchasing power. Decrease in demand, supply equals constant, fall in prices. Decrease in money with banks. Increase in interest rates, demand for credit constant, decrease in investment, economic growth falls. Price fall, disinflation, deflation. On one hand, economic stagnation on the other. How is CRR, money supply, interest rates and inflation linked? RBI increases CRR. Scenario 1. Banks have to keep more percentage of their NDTL with the Reserve Bank of India. Banks have less money to lend. Banks can increase the lending rates to maintain the profit margins. The funds can become costlier to borrow. People, entities borrow less. Money supply in the market reduces. Less money with people and thus the demand for goods can go down. Against a constant supply, prices comes down. How is CRR, money supply, interest rates and inflation linked? RBI decreases CRR. Scenario 2. Banks have to keep less percentage of their NDTL with the Reserve Bank of India. Banks have more money to lend. Now, banks can decrease the rate of lending. The funds become cheaper in the market. People, entities can borrow more as it becomes affordable for the money supply in the market increases. More money with the people and thus the demand for goods can go up. Against a constant supply, prices can increase. Question 2. Q. When the Reserve Bank of India announces an increase of the cash reserve rate, what does it mean? 2010. The commercial banks will have less money to lend. B. The Reserve Bank of India will have less money to lend. C. The Union government will have less money to lend. D. The commercial banks will have more money to lend. Answer. Quantitative tools. Statutory liquidity ratio SLR. It is defined as the share of bank's NDTL that it needs to maintain with itself as liquid assets. Every bank is required to maintain a minimum portion of their net demand and time liabilities NDTL in the form of gold, cash, or any liquid asset form. The ratio of these liquid assets to the demand and time liabilities is referred to as the statutory liquidity ratio. This percentage should not be more than 40%. Statutory liquidity ratio SLR. Where is it mandated? All the commercial banks in India are required to maintain the statutory liquidity ratio as per Section 24 and Section 56 of the Banking Regulation Act 1949. Relation between money supply and prices. Increase in money supply. Increase in purchasing power. Increase in demand, supply equals constant, increase in prices. Increase in money with banks. Decrease in interest rates, demand for credit constant, increase in investment, economic growth. Inflation on one hand, economic growth on the other. Relation between money supply and prices. Decrease in money supply. Decrease in purchasing power. Decrease in demand, supply equals constant, fall in prices. Decrease in money with banks. Increase in interest rates, demand for credit constant, decrease in investment, economic growth falls. Price fall, disinflation, deflation. On one hand, economic stagnation on the other. How is SLR, money supply, interest rates and inflation linked? RBI increases SLR. Scenario 1. Banks have to keep more percentage of their NDTL in liquid assets. Banks have less money to lend. Banks can increase the lending rates to maintain the profit margins. The funds can become costlier to borrow. People, entities borrow less. Money supply in the market reduces. Less money with people and thus the demand for goods can go down. Against a constant supply, prices comes down. How is SLR, money supply, interest rates and inflation linked? RBI decreases SLR. Scenario 2. Banks have to keep less percentage of their NDTL in liquid assets. Banks have more money to lend. Now, banks can decrease the rate of lending. The funds become cheaper in the market. People, entities borrow more as it becomes costlier for the money supply in the market increases. More money with the people and thus the demand for goods can go up. Against a constant supply, prices can increase. Differences between CRR and SLR. CRR, cash reserve ratio, SLR, statutory liquidity ratio. The CRR requires banks to have only cash reserves with the RBI. In case of SLR, banks are asked to have reserves of liquid assets which include both cash and gold. Banks don't earn returns on money parked as CRR. Banks earn returns on money parked as SLR. In CRR, the cash reserve is maintained by the banks for the Reserve Bank of India. In case of SLR, the securities are kept with the banks themselves which they need to maintain in the form of liquid assets. Question 3. Q. The banks are required to maintain a certain ratio between their cash in hand and total assets. This is called 1998. SBR, statutory bank ratio. B. SLR, statutory liquid ratio. C. CBR, central liquid reserve. D. CLR, central liquid reserve. Answer. B. Question 4. Q. In the context of Indian economy, which of the following is the purposes of statutory reserve requirements? 2011. 1. To enable the central bank to control the amount of advances the banks can create. 2. To make the people's deposits with banks safe and liquid. 3. To prevent the commercial banks from making excessive profits. 4. To force the banks to have sufficient vault cash to meet the day-to-day requirements. Select the correct answer using the code given below. 1 only. B. 1 and 2 only. C. 2 and 3 only. D. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Answer. B. Question 5. Q. When the Reserve Bank of India reduces the statutory liquidity ratio by 50 basis points, which of the following is likely to happen? 2015. India's GDP growth rate increases drastically. B. Foreign institutional investors may bring more capital into our country. C. Scheduled commercial banks may cut their lending rates. D. It may drastically reduce the liquidity to the banking system. 1 and 2 only. Answer. C. UPSC Civil Services Examination. Prelims Special. Previous year questions. 1995-2018 Economy. Chapter listing. S. No chapter. 1. Introduction, types of economies, national income and accounting. 2. Growth and development, economic growth, economic development. Happiness and human development. 3. Economic planning, types of planning, planning in the Indian economy. Economic reforms. 4. Inflation and business cycle. 5. Agriculture. 6. Industry. 7. Financial system in India. 8. Fiscal policy. 9. External sector in India. 10. International economic organizations. Completed, L1, L2, L3. Completed, L4, L5. Completed, L6, L7. Completed, L8, L9, L10. L11 Q1 to 5 L12 Q6 11. Quantitative tools. Liquidity Adjustment Facility LAF. The Reserve Bank of India's Liquidity Adjustment Facility LAF helps banks to adjust the daily liquidity mismatches. LAF helps banks to quickly borrow money in case of any emergency or for adjusting their SLR, CRR requirements. It is thus a tool used by the RBI to control short-term liquidity, money supply in the market. Under LAF, there are two main tools being used: repo rate and reverse rate. Some important concepts. What is a bond? Bond is a debt instrument created for the purpose of raising capital. These represent debt obligations. Bond issuer investor gives the money back, actual money, plus interest on the sum received on a predetermined date. Some important concepts. What is a government security, GSEC? A government security, GSEC, is a tradable instrument issued by the central government or the state governments. It acknowledges the government's debt obligation. Short-term securities with maturity less than 1 year, long-term securities with maturity of 1 year or more. Quantitative tools. Liquidity Adjustment Facility LAF. Repo rate. It is the rate at which RBI lends money to commercial banks against securities. Repo or repurchase option is a collateralized lending, i.e. banks borrow money from RBI to meet short-term needs by selling securities to RBI with an agreement to repurchase the same at predetermined rate and date. This tool injects liquidity into the system. Note, minimum amount 5 crore rupees. Client's policy rate used for inflation targeting. Quantitative tools. Liquidity Adjustment Facility LAF. Repo rate. Central government. State government. Clients. Banks, commercial, RRBs, cooperative banks. Non-banking financial institutions. Relation between money supply and prices. Increase in money supply. Increase in purchasing power. Increase in demand, supply equals constant increase in prices. Increase in money with banks. Decrease in interest rates, demand for credit constant, increase in investment, economic growth. Inflation on one hand, economic growth on the other. Relation between money supply and prices. Decrease in money supply. Decrease in purchasing power. Decrease in demand, supply equals constant, fall in prices. Decrease in money with banks. Increase in interest rates, demand for credit constant, decrease in investment, economic growth falls. Price fall, disinflation, deflation. On one hand, economic stagnation on the other. How is repo rate, money supply, interest rate and inflation linked? RBI increases repo rate. Scenario 1: it becomes costly for the banks to borrow from the RBI, but it does to meet its short-term liquidity crisis. Now, since borrowing rates are high, to compensate, it increases its lending rate. Loans become costlier. People, entities borrow less. Money supply in the market reduces. Less money with people and thus the demand for goods can go down. Against a constant supply, prices can decrease. How is repo rate, money supply, interest rate and inflation linked? RBI decreases the repo rate. Scenario 2. Loans become cheaper for the banks. Now, since borrowing rates are low, the banks can pass on the benefits to the consumers and decrease the lending. Rates, loans can become cheaper in the market. People, entities borrow more. Money supply in the market increases. More money with people and thus the demand for goods goes up. Against a constant supply, prices can increase. Question 6. Q. Consider the following statements, 2007. 1. The repo rate is the rate at which other banks borrow from the Reserve Bank of India. 2. A value of 1 for Gini coefficient in a country implies that there is perfectly equal income for everyone in its population. Which of the statements given above is correct? A. 1 only. B. 2 only. C. Both 1 and 2. D. Neither 1 nor 2. Answer A. Question 7. Q. An increase in the bank rate generally indicates that the 2013 market rate of interest is likely to fall. B. Central bank is no longer making loans to commercial banks. C. Central bank is following an easy money policy. D. Central bank is following a tight money policy. Answer D. Question 8. Q. If the interest rate is decreased in an economy, it will 2014. A. Decrease the consumption expenditure in the economy. B. Increase the tax collection of the government. C. Increase the investment expenditure in the economy. D. Increase the total savings in the economy. Answer C. Liquidity Adjustment Facility LAF. Reverse repo rate. Reverse repo operation is when RBI borrows money from banks by lending securities. The interest rate paid by RBI in this case is called the reverse repo rate. This tool absorbs liquidity from the system. RBI clients, commercial banks. Money. Securities. Relation between money supply and prices. Increase in money supply. Increase in purchasing power. Increase in demand, supply equals constant, increase in prices. Increase in money with banks. Decrease in interest rates, demand for credit constant, increase in investment, economic growth. Inflation on one hand, economic growth on the other. Relation between money supply and prices. Decrease in money supply. Decrease in purchasing power. Decrease in demand, supply equals constant, fall in prices. Decrease in money with banks. Increase in interest rates, demand for credit constant, decrease in investment, economic growth falls. Price fall, disinflation, deflation. On one hand, economic stagnation on the other. How is reverse repo rate, money supply, interest rate and inflation linked? RBI increases reverse repo rate. Scenario 1: banks are encouraged to park more funds with the RBI to get higher returns on idle cash. Now, since banks park more funds with the RBI, less funds to lend. Loans become costlier, supply is less. People, entities borrow less. Money supply in the market reduces. Less money with people and thus the demand for goods can go down. Inflation is controlled. How is reverse repo rate, money supply, interest rate and inflation linked? RBI decreases the reverse repo rate. Scenario 2. Banks are discouraged to park excess funds with the RBI as they would get less returns as there is excess of funds with the banks, and RBI is not a lucrative option because of low reverse repo rates. Banks lend in the market at affordable rates. Loans become cheaper in the market. People, entities borrow more. Money supply in the market increases. More money with people and thus the demand for goods can go up. Prices can increase. LAF corridor. The difference between the repo rate and the reverse repo rate is known as the policy rate corridor or the LAF corridor. Note, previously the difference between these two rates was 1%. Now this corridor has been narrowed down to 0.25%. Marginal Standing Facility MSF. Marginal Standing Facility is a liquidity support arrangement provided by RBI to commercial banks if the latter doesn't have the required eligible securities above the SLR limit. Under MSF, a bank can borrow one-day loans from the RBI, even if it doesn't have any eligible securities. Excess of its SLR requirement maintains only the SLR. This means that the bank can't borrow under the repo facility. Marginal Standing Facility MSF. Tenor and amount. Under the facility, the eligible entities can avail overnight, up to 2% of their NDTL. The rate at which these funds can be borrowed is currently 0.25% above the repo rate. Note, this is subject to change and thus keep yourself updated. Minimum request size. Requests will be received for a minimum amount of Rs, 1 crore and in multiples of Rs, 1 crore thereafter. Question 9. Q. The terms marginal standing facility rate and net demand and time liabilities, sometimes appearing in news, be used in relation to 2014. A. Banking operations. B. Communication networking. C. Military strategies. D. Supply and demand of agricultural products. Answer. A. Bank rate. RBI lends money to its clients for long term at a rate which is known as the bank rate. The borrowing of money takes place without any security. Impact. When bank rate is increased, interest rate also increases, which have negative impact on demand, thus prices decreases. Question 10. Q. The lowering of bank rate by the Reserve Bank of India leads to 2011. A. More liquidity in the market. B. Less liquidity in the market. C. No change in the liquidity in the market. D. Mobilization of more deposits by commercial banks. Answer. A. Open market operations. OMO. These are operations in which the RBI buys and sells securities in the open market. This is done either to inject liquidity in the system or to absorb the liquidity from the system. Question 11. Q. In the context of Indian economy, open market operations refers to 2013. A. Borrowing by scheduled banks from the RBI. B. Lending by commercial banks to industry and trade. C. Purchase and sale of government securities by the RBI. D. None of the above. Answer. C. Open market operations. OMO. How is it different from LAF or MSF? In LAF or MSF, the government security is getting repurchased. One party buys government security from second party. Now, the second party promises to buy back the security after some time. So, here the security is acting as a collateral. In case of OMO, the securities are being sold permanently from one party to the another. The second party can do anything with it. Open market operations. OMO. Scenario 1. Scenario 2. RBI purchases the government securities. Liquidity in the market increases as RBI pays money to the party from which it purchases the securities. RBI sells the government securities. Liquidity in the market decreases as RBI gets money from the players it is selling its security to. Prices can increase as more money in the market, demands for goods and services increases. Prices can reduce as there is less money in the market, demands for goods and services has come down. UPSC Civil Services Examination. Prelims Special. Previous year questions. 1995-2018 Economy. Chapter listing. S. No chapter. 1. Introduction, types of economies, national income and accounting. 2. Growth and development, economic growth, economic development. Happiness and human development. 3. Economic planning, types of planning, planning in the Indian economy. Economic reforms. 4. Inflation and business cycle. 5. Agriculture. 6. Industry. 7. Financial system in India. 8. Fiscal policy. 9. External sector in India. 10. International economic organizations. Completed, L1, L2, L3. Completed, L4, L5. Completed, L6, L7. Completed, L8, L9, L10. L11 Q1 to 5 L12 Q6 to 11 L13 Q12 14. Question 12. Q. Which of the following terms indicates a mechanism used by commercial banks for providing credit to the government? 2010. A. Cash credit ratio. B. Debt service obligation. C. Liquidity adjustment facility. D. Statutory liquidity ratio. Answer. D. Open market operations. OMO. These are operations in which the RBI buys and sells securities in the open market. This is done either to inject liquidity in the system or to absorb the liquidity from the system. Open market operations. OMO. How is it different from LAF or MSF? In LAF or MSF, the government security is getting repurchased. One party buys government security from second party. Now, the second party promises to buy back the security after some time. So, here the security is acting as a collateral. In case of OMO, the securities are being sold permanently from one party to the another. The second party can do anything with it. Question 13. Q. Which of the following measures would result in an increase in the money supply in the economy? 2012. 1. Purchase of government securities from the public by the central bank. 2. Deposit of currency in commercial banks by the public. 3. Borrowing by the government from the central bank. 4. Sale of government securities to the public by the central bank. Select the correct answer using the codes given below. 1 only. B. 2 and 4 only. C. 1 and 3. D. 2, 3 and 4. Answer. C. Monetary policy instruments. 2 types. Quantitative. OR general. OR indirect. Qualitative. OR selective. OR direct. Qualitative tools. Rationing of credit. Priority sector lending. PSL. Priority sector refers to those sectors of the economy which may not get timely and adequate credit. In the absence of this special dispensation, PSL is aimed to provide institutional credit to those sectors and segments for whom it is difficult to get credit. Qualitative tools. Rationing of credit. Priority sector lending. PSL. Categories included under the priority sector: agriculture, micro and small enterprises, education, housing, export credit, others. Qualitative tools. Rationing of credit. Priority sector lending. PSL. PSL targets 3 categories: domestic banks, foreign banks having less than 20 branches in India, foreign banks having 20 or more than 20 branches in India. Qualitative tools. Rationing of credit. Priority sector lending. PSL. PSL targets domestic banks. Qualitative tools. Rationing of credit. Priority sector lending. PSL. PSL targets foreign banks. Qualitative tools. Rationing of credit. Priority sector lending. PSL. PSL targets not met. What happens? Case 1. Domestic banks and foreign banks having 20 and more than 20 branches in India. The amount goes to the RIDF, Rural Infrastructure Development Fund, which is managed by NABARD, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. Case 2. For foreign banks having less than 20 branches in India, the amount goes to SEDF, Small Enterprises Development Fund, which is managed by SIDBI, Small Industries Development Bank of India. Qualitative tools. Loan-to-value ratio. LTV. Margin requirements. Loan-to-value. LTV is a ratio of the amount of loan that can be given to the total value of the property against a fixed value of collateral. A higher LTV implies a greater loan amount and therefore lesser down payment that you need to arrange out of your pocket. However, it also means a higher EMI. A lower LTV means that you have to arrange for a larger sum to be paid as down payment. Qualitative tools. Moral suasion. Moral suasion is just as a request by the RBI to the commercial banks to take certain actions and measures as per the trend of the economy. RBI may request commercial banks not to give loans for unproductive purpose which does not add to economic growth but increases inflation. Direct action. This step is taken by the RBI against banks that don't fulfill conditions and requirements. The banks may be penalized for not following the directions. Question 13. Q. Which one of the following is not an instrument of selective credit control in India? 1995. A. Regulation of consumer credit. B. Rationing of credit. C. Margin requirements. D. Variable cost reserve ratios. Answer C. Types of monetary policy followed by RBI. Accommodative monetary policy. Contractionary monetary policy. Neutral stance of RBI. Types of monetary policy followed by RBI. Accommodative monetary policy. Why is it followed? To increase the money supply in the economy. How? Lowering of the repo rate by the RBI, though there are other tools as well, so the borrowing money gets easier. Remember the scenarios. Also called as easy or expansionary monetary policy of the RBI. Types of monetary policy followed by RBI. Contractionary monetary policy. Why is it followed? To decrease the money supply in the economy. How? Increasing the repo rate. Remember the scenarios. Types of monetary policy followed by RBI. Neutral stance of RBI. It provides it the flexibility to move in either of the directions. But, prevailing risk of inflation may mean that the RBI won't cut down the interest rates. Question 14. Q. Consider the following liquid assets, 2013. 1. Demand deposits with the banks. 2. Time deposits with the banks. 3. Saving deposits with the banks. 4. Currency. The correct sequence of these assets in the decreasing order of liquidity is 1 4 3 2 B 4 3 2 1 C 2 3 1 4 D 4 1 3 2. Answer D.